everyone. This is Jackie Cooper with both the Blockchain Legal Institute and the Crypto Mom 2 talk show. But today, I also want to share that this is the Bermuda Career Day talk show as well. So you're going to see this interview on a variety of social media posts because of the fact that we are supporting a lot of the activities and the educational projects that are within Bermuda. And a little bit of background about how I came connected to Michelle, who I have the honor and privilege to be interviewing today. When in October of 2023, I was invited to speak at the Bermuda's FinTech conference, and I spoke about the Bitcoin Cinderella blockchain educational series and how it was important to incorporate information within the elementary, middle, high school, and college side for career readiness about blockchain and the industry and the community, because of the fact that the technology is very innovative, and these are ways that all different ages can benefit. And so our conversation today is both for the adults who are listening, but also for the youth that are listening. Because again, if you're in elementary school and you're listening to this, or middle school or high school, we welcome you to listen to this. We also ask that you go ahead and write down any questions that you have. And in the blog below, there'll be an email. And if you have a question that we haven't answered, just send an email with permission of your parents and your teachers. So that way we can answer the email and provide you additional resources, because we're all about career development and professional development. For those adults that are listening, again, I'm a career switcher. My background's law, but I'm also in education. I'm a special education teacher, nationally board certified, and with a lot of other degrees. But, again, from that perspective, for you as the youth who are listening, degrees are important, but what's even more important is for you to find something that you're passionate about. Because my career journey has been changed over time, and I always follow my heart, and it's not always easy. But again, there's a lot of various conversations that we're going to have. So I'm going to stop talking, because Michelle's journey is fabulous and fascinating. And I think that everyone who's listening is going to learn a lot from her. Michelle, how are you doing today?
Feeling better and better. Blessed to be here. Thank you for your time, Jackie.
Yeah, so first, I want to just compliment you on your background. It is fabulous and beautiful. And if anyone is listening on the audio side, definitely hop on over to the YouTube side, so that way you can see it. Did you design the background? Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
The background is actually my PhD of 120,000 words in a graphic. So in essence, I was very minded to look at how do we balance people and planet with the marketplace. And you'll see there's a child's seesaw there. In the background, there's also the cityscape of Bermuda, and above it, Tomorrowland, to remind us that we can lean into the future and create opportunities that we've not seen before, but also to keep in mind, if I can step to one side, whoops, you'll see there's a kaleidoscopic road that's going into the future there through the Moon Gate, which is one of the Bermuda icons. So we have multiple opportunities, and this just reminds me, what am I doing this all for? People, planet, and near Earth orbit.
I love that. I love that, because again, when I visited Bermuda, it became very evident to me that it's a small island, but there's so much culture and community there. And the planet definitely impacts Bermuda, from the perspective of the water and the air and things like that. Go ahead and share a little bit about your background, though, because you are multi-talented. And, again, for the youth that are listening, keep in mind, or think as you're listening to us, where did we start and where are we now? Because again, follow your heart, follow your passions, but where you start might not be where you end up, and that's okay. So Michelle, where did you start and where are you now?
Wow, I've got to start with a secret confession. I haven't decided what I want to be when I grow up.
I
So
understand that.
for and this is for all the multiple generations out there, whether you're in high school or you're thinking about retirement, it may not be the last act, it could be the first next act. For me, I'm a New Zealander. I grew up in the Pacific Rim, a circle of fire. So I'm New Zealander by birth, Celtic by blood, and global by choice. So my career has gifted me the opportunity to go across different industries, different marketplaces, and work with amazing different cultures and amazing experts. But most importantly, to stay with what you're talking about, I've reinvented myself multiple times, and I've shown up, as I've just shared, in multiple diverse careers. So the roles have ranged from last century, being a general legal counsel, eco builder, board member, trustee, social enterprise founder, volunteer, C-suite, impact investor. And then this century, I took a U-turn and went from workaholism to well-being and dreaming big. So I want to share this with you. My conscious reinvention journey, because each of it has been as unique as our footprint, is really about a self-expression and a willingness to lean into the multiple versions of ourselves, and more importantly, to lead by example. My wins and do-overs, I believe, have a lot of educational opportunities for others. So as a mentor, I often share those really embarrassing moments in the corporate world. But more importantly, at the turn of the century, I stepped down as a general counsel to a multinational and decided to create a social enterprise law firm because I had an deep and abiding need to create access to justice. And in the first 10 years, we ended up contributing over 3 million in pro bono work, well, actually 7 years. And this is in a country that's ranked between the 3rd to 5th richest country in the world per GDP. So we have this deep environmental degradation and social crisis going on that isn't really seen by the marketplace. And when you live in a country that works more like a company than a country, people get lost. Vulnerable populations are not addressed, and everyone is measured by the marketplace. So I'm hoping that my message is a call to move from being egocentric to ecocentric and being mindful of the different people and places and all living beings that your work and your influence can influence to the good, preferably. So basically, workaholism transitioned me into the 21st century as a steward, moving from workaholism to well-being. And I think I'm not alone in doing this. So I'm now repositioned as a climate conscious professional, and I'm very much in relationship with alliances for global green transformation. So what does that mean? Basically, I've got a co-mission to inspire individuals to turn up and help us build a more stable and sustainable future. This is a decisive decade, and how we show up is going to really impact. So in full transparency, in my 60s, I have done things that I never dreamt I would have been doing in my earlier decades. And one of those projects is a sustainability startup, which I'm working on part-time, that invites humanity to the empty seat at the sustainable table, and to encourage engagement in a fun and aspirational way, and motivate involvement that isn't about being anxiety driven, but in doing what's good for the earth as well as people. So, and recognize and reward those actions, because I think we're shutting down executive thinking by making people exceedingly afraid. So, real life insights can help you gain courage and knowledge about yourself, and give and make you aware that there are opportunities out there that you can transverse or travel down, or make the path yourself by walking.
Yeah, I agree with you. And for the elementary, middle, or high school students who are listening, think of this as just a seed to plant within your kind of life as you are making decisions about your career. because sometimes you're not going to always have a choice. You will have to earn, the traditional pay route, but then there might be opportunities where you can actually become an entrepreneur, or you can make a choice. So stepping in through that door is sometimes scary, but if you have the right mentors, again, you make your plan and you have an action, then you can do what Michelle has done and, what I'm doing as well. But again, you still have to have a foundation. So I know that you are doing a variety of work, and I know that you've written, you are consulting. I think you mentioned that you were just nominated for a fellowship. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. I've been invited to be a dandelion. So this is really one of those wonderful moments of synchronicity. And I want to share a poem called Dear Dandelion. Imagine a future where the principles by which we operate are golden rules. First, do no harm,
Oh my
then
God.
care for all life and seek joy. So the Dandelion Fellowship announced this initiative, or Earth Law Centre announced the Dandelion Fellowship at COP28, where they want to develop 100 nature proxies. So the initiative is to bring together representatives of nature, cultural biodiversity, from all horizons of life at the intersection of intergenerational or multicultural representation, including Indigenous and traditional wisdoms from 7 continents. So it's the first cohort I've been invited, and I feel it is an opportunity to inspire, think trust, and create sustainable investment, think interdependence. So the dandelions will be like proxies that are seeds of change and transformation, leaning in to create a voice and cultivate the ways of nature for the restoration of harmony and balance in our world at the boardroom table or within organizations. So most importantly, it's creating this ecocentric junction where the collective intelligence of legal consciousness, corporate governance, and the rights of nature create a path that includes the voice, the way, and the vote of nature being present in organizational decision, governance, and leadership.
I love that.
Thank you. So they're basically the stewards of nature governance and guardians, and making sure nature's interests are represented in the boardroom and other places where impact decisions are made.
So with your being nominated and doing this, what's your vision? Where do you see you're putting your energy? And then for the youth that are listening, how can they support this vision of being a steward of our planet?
Well, the announcement will be coming out next month, so I've kind of jumped the gun. It's not officially out there yet, but by the time this is out there, I'm sure it will be, because it's a February announcement. Yeah, I think for me, it's the chance to create this junction where the left brain thinking of the lawyers are meeting the right brain thinking of nature, and that we're not doing any harm, that we're taking the care to involve in the decision making all living beings. There are ant colonies that are more sustainable and humane than human colonies. There's a lot we can learn, and the decisions we're making now are being influenced by this move from shareholder to stakeholder culture, so a major stakeholder is nature. Every second breath we take is from the ocean. So we do not survive if we don't have the ocean, and
No.
nature creates the air that we breathe. So I'm excited to join and build relationships and get involved. And this is new ground that we're crafting. It's my favorite place to play.
Yeah, so I agree with you. It is definitely new ground. There are definitely organizations who have made a difference in this area. And for the youth that are also listening to this, think about how you can help in a small way, because everyone can make a little difference in their own backyard and their own neighborhood, because everything, whether we pick up a water bottle or whether we decide not to use a plastic water bottle, this is also contributing to the whole planet, because I'm sure that everyone has heard about, the floating plastic in the oceans, the whole island. So again, we all have to contribute somehow to making the planet better.
Yes.
And we can't ignore it. So, in terms of your own education and training, because we are having, different ages listen to this, you've gotten a number of degrees. Have you found that they've all been helpful, or, do you think, how have you used these degrees? And maybe not traditionally.
Well, let's have another secret confession. I was a D student at school. Nobody should have let me into university. And I argued my way into university in 4 hours and had 3 weeks to get to the other side of the world. The reason I share that is because sometimes we're asked to show up. Have you ever noticed that energy waits for the right attention, environment, that moment, that rising consciousness to appear? Well, for me, nature is very influential. This morning, I was listening to bluebirds singing around in my garden and things like that, and that just gets my creative juices flowing. So my first degree was law because it's one of the most powerful degrees. And I had a mentor who said to me, well, you wouldn't have done well at high school because you do not memorize. So being asked to regurgitate knowledge is not a good use or example of your intelligence. So being assessed at high school on repetitive learning did not showcase any of my intelligence. And in fact, I left high school feeling pretty dumb. And I think it's important to know that, because sometimes the sounds of your song, the voicing of your story, brings the power of grace for someone to think, well, as I did, maybe I'm not stupid. Maybe I need to show up at law school, and maybe I need to get strategic about how I memorize huge amounts of information so that I can release that experience into the world. So my second degree was I went to law school in New Zealand. I did my master's at Indiana Purdue in the States, and it was in arts. So you kind of stay with me. I'm in different schools now. And then I around 10 years into this century, I was really heartsick by the paradox of wealth and the wretchedness of the community of people in the environment on this small island, which, as I've said earlier, often rates to being the third, fifth place in the richest place in the world per GDP, which is a very blunt instrument. So I used the national bird to write a song in 2012, and the national bird was my metaphor because it was black, white, gray. It had been believed to be extinct around the year I was born. And I wanted to speak truth to power about my witnessing of social and environmental deterioration and homelessness on the island. And as I said, I was severely overwhelmed. So mentors arrived to help me. Ronald Lightbourne, amazing activist and musician on this island, helped me craft and clean up my lyrics. John Woolridge, who's an amazing sound studio and artist in his own right, helped me. He wrote the music with my saying what I was hoping. And then we turned it into a video and brought to life 2 documentaries that were out there. And I can give you a link to the song because I think it's important to remember sometimes it's your creative side that crafts an entrance. And that song got played to a UN meeting. The committee was called PRIME, Principles of Responsible Management Education, that UN committee. And I was asked to showcase the song at the meeting. And then from that, I got invited to do my doctorate on global leadership. So I share that because sometimes by showing up, by taking a chance, I'd never written a song before. I was very emotionally, spiritually, and mentally stressed by what I was seeing that was invisible. It was invisible to most, although in plain sight. And it led me to creating a PhD. And A bachelor's says you know how to think, so it's an entry into the marketplace. A master's says you're an expert, so my master's was in philanthropy, and a doctorate says you create information. So from a C student at high school to law school shouldn't have happened. I shouldn't have even been able to survive law school. And I can tell you it was very hard running, and I'm a recovering lawyer to this day. I shouldn't have got into another totally different school in a different country, but synchronicity lined up. And that was driven by the social enterprise I started, which is just wrapped up after 20 years. And then the PhD happened because I wrote a song. So I want to share those because the academic route is not for everyone. And if you had asked me at 15, 18, 30, I would have said, hell no, I'm not smart enough. In fact, quite frankly, I still don't feel smart enough. But I successfully, strategically followed my passion and my heart's call to represent the concerns that I was seeing that was invisible. And I had the power to make it visible. Yeah, so the degree, maybe it's your volunteering, it maybe you create something like an app. Really today, you've got all the tools to be anything and everything you want, but it's hearing the call of your soul, and it's hearing the song in your heart on what you're being called to do. And so much information is at your fingertips, like the Blockchain Legal Institute. Amazing stuff. All of the information and knowledge that you're putting out there as Crypto Mum. You know, we have access to awesome, awesome stuff. And if you're going down a more traditional path, you would need to be considering one of the, you know, what you need to do a degree in. But in my day, I had to do the degree to get into the marketplace. And I got into the marketplace and got into the C-suite and created this huge influence. But there are other, well, I don't know if you can ask me about challenges. I've got other things to share.
So,
but I will, if you'll bear with me, I will share about another story about a career path change diversion I took. I started a podcast at 60. I didn't even know what a podcast was. In fact, I had to go and swipe my grandson's smartphone and, Siri, what's a podcast? She told me. And I'm like, that's my virtual speaking podium. Well, this all happened at the beginning of the pandemic. So I believe sometimes we have to be pivotal on our path. It may not be lawyering wasn't for me during the pandemic. I have family obligations to support, but basically I was gifted the knowledge of a podcast. I figured out what it was. And then to my delight, it was my solution to create a virtual speaking podium as the public speaker. So I spent 2 years as a socio-audio influencer. Who'd have thought? I couldn't have told you I was going to do that up until, before 60. But in essence, it created these smiles across the miles. It intrigued, it entertained, it called people for the knowledge that they needed. And I landed in the top 10% on Apple Podcasts in the global charts. And I wrapped it up after 2 years. The pandemic was over. I wanted to move into the climate space. And it was because of the podcast that I got invited to work on the startup and sustainability. So you're seeing a trend here. It's the courage to show up, even if you don't feel smart enough, even if you don't know what a podcast was.
No, it's true. I mean, this interview is all about you, but I'll share something for those that are listening. My career path started in law, and it's, navigated over to education. But because of my being in the education space and then learning about what blockchain means, which is going to be a whole nother broadcast, I started writing these books called The Bitcoin Cinderella, and which is a series, for those that are, in middle of high school and elementary school. Think of it like the Harry Potter on the blockchain. But, again, I heard in my mind, in my heart, that I needed to write these books. I was not a writer, but the book came together in a way which was not easy, but it wasn't hard for me. But again, so for those that are listening who are, elementary, middle, or high school, write the poems, write your stories, do the art, to put it together, because you can create, the graphic novels, you can create the conversation and story that another person might want to hear. And because every story is important, and you don't, I guess what Michelle and I are saying is, don't judge yourself. Keep yourself open to the idea that it's all possible, because the possibility is unlimitless. The limit only happens when we say we can't do something. And even if you quote unquote fail, if you take what those words are, it's the first attempt in learning. So there is no failure. It's all about the process. And when you look and do your research about inventions that we're using now didn't happen the first time. They had to, in science or in engineering, they had to kind of go through the elements and figure out what works, what doesn't work. So what we're trying to do with these shows is to inspire you to reach beyond your vision as to what you can be, because we believe in you, even though we don't know you personally yet. But again, you are going to be the next person that's going to make the difference. And you need to believe that, because we believe in you, because we know who's come behind us and who's coming in front of us. So, Michelle.
Yeah, absolutely. Dream big. Dream
Yeah.
big. During the pandemic, I started a podcast for 2 years. I did a TED talk. I also joined a collaborative writing group and published a book on Amazon and got a #1 Amazon in 2 different categories, along with my cohorts. These are not things that I thought I could do, but
Right.
I'm a speaker who likes to write. So if you think about it, the writing a song is writing.
Yeah.
And it was speaking my truth. Writing the book was the same thing.
Yeah.
And the PhD, and I speak on all parts of the PhD in all sorts of places as well. So I share those examples so that you can celebrate the path of courage, just having a go. And we're living in a time of amazing content creation opportunities and tools. So have at it, have fun, dream big.
Yeah, I agree. Any last minute thoughts that you would like to share with those? I know that you and I are going to have more than one conversation on our Bermuda Career Day talk show, because as you are developing different areas, we're going to hop back on to kind of highlight and feature. But any last minute thoughts, advice that you want to give to those that might be listening?
Absolutely. We're living in a century with 5 generations in the workplace, and Gen Z came on board in 2018. 48% of Gen Z is made up of the ethnic minorities, and with over 3 million grandparents still in the workforce. I think as people, we need to unapologetically show up, speak our truth, and pursue our dreams, and create intergenerational collaborations. We have people like yourself sitting there with so much expertise, willing to mentor, support, educate. It is a divine time to being open. The answer will show up, the people will appear, be willing to engage and pay it forward.
That's exactly right. So for everyone who's listening, as I always say at the end of all my shows, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. We are so interconnected. We're all part of one world, and now more than ever. So everyone, thank you for being on the Bermuda Career Day talk show, as well as the Blockchain Legal Institute and Crypto Mom 2 talk show. Michelle, great having you. You and I are going to be, obviously talking on and on. So everyone, enjoy, send us your questions. We're here to help you and get you started on your journey. Talk to you soon. Bye.